So speaking of stuff that was talked about when we were there, what are your, I mean, maybe you don't, but I think one of the things that we were talking about was, and we watched it in the Jack, how do you say his last name?
Jack
Whitehall?
Whitehall.
His last show where he talks about, he's kind of on this journey per episode where he just had a kid and he's talking about like different things to do with parenting. And one of the episodes was on longevity. And he went and did all of the biohacking stuff and did all these treatments. And then they ended it in a town in Italy that's like one of the biggest blue zones. And they kind of concluded the episode talking about just how it's probably living a happy, low dose, like low stress, easy breezy life that is surrounded by community and hard work and like things that just keep you moving. And I'm like, oh, that's not how I live. That's not how I live. That's not, I would say even at certain points of my life, I would have pushed away from living like that. Like I would have made choices to make sure that I wasn't living like that, that I would like to, and not just because of that episode. It's things that I think over the last few years, realizing that I need to have more of that. Are there things for you that you agree with that you want to start focusing on? And are there specifics that you know, like I need to chill out with that, or I could let go with that, or I need to just have a different mindset?
Yeah, I think there's so much variance in all that. So you have to figure it out for yourself and what works for you. I think one of the things that is kind of tricky with that episode and what they were talking about and went to and whatever is like, they're going to this family and spending time with them, and it's like they're making their own food and making it from scratch and spending the time together as a family and doing all that kind of stuff. And it seems like it's not so much of the way that they presented it was like, oh, it's just like be around community and family and don't worry so much about what you eat. Don't worry about, what you intake and all whatever. And it's like,
you got to read between the lines a little bit on it.
Like they were having pasta and all of like pasta and wine and all that kind of stuff. And it's like, yeah, but that is totally different over there than it is here. So I think that's the worry I have with people that watch something like that and they're like, yeah, I just need to chill out and just like not worry so much about what I eat or do or whatever. And it's like, well, no, that's Italy and they have fresh ingredients and they don't use all the toxins and pesticides and all that stuff that we do with our food and
things that are things that are legal in our country. That's what is pushed in our food supply is illegal there.
Yeah, exactly. And it's like, they're making pasta from scratch to where I think people take it here and they're like, yeah, I'll just make I'll go get the box of noodles and boil them and I'll just do that. Like I'll make it simple on myself. And unfortunately that's, it's not the same as what they were doing. I think the message is good and their way of going about it and their ideas of it is good, but they also have all of the things to help that with natural foods and real food and making it together and doing all that. The wine that they're having is like homemade and the stuff they're buying is coming from really good sources and that sort of thing. I mean, they even talk about like the tomatoes there are grown in this like super rich environment and all that kind of stuff, and the tomatoes that are grown here are just like not even real tomatoes anymore. They're like genetically modified up the gills, kind of like our corn and all that stuff. So it's just not the same situations, but we tend to take the message and go like, oh, well, I just need to do this and it's the same. It's like, well, no, unfortunately it's not. I think, trying to find ways to relax a little bit more and not have all that stressed out stuff and reduce cortisol and make things simpler and not be so, I think part of like the American society is hard work, push hard, innovate, make things better, make things bigger, faster, stronger, all that kind of stuff. And that tends to be, if you're working hard, you're working 60, 70, 80 hours. It's not, I'm just doing a 40-hour work week or whatever. Or
even I'm working less hours, but like very efficiently and still getting the same amount done. Like, I don't think that's even celebrated either.
No. It's always you could be doing more, and you should be doing more, and you should be having a full-time job and going to school and, you know, pushing that envelope and doing this and doing that, and also focus on your diet and also focus on exercise. Like, it's very much, I think Americans, it's very much how do you be the best, and it's always just do more than everybody else. To where over in Europe, it's like,
we're gonna do it better, not more, but better than everybody else.
they have this vibe that it's like, we're just here to enjoy it. I'm not here to go crazy and go buck wild. But there's obviously a ton of variance to that. There's a, you know, it's not just an American thing versus a Europe thing. It's person by person. But I think the message is good and stuff. Obviously, if you've ever watched any of his stuff before, he already does that with his life, of enjoying it very much and like not worrying so much about those things, to where, of course, he came to that conclusion. You know, it's like if you were to have us go do that, and it's like, we'd come back and go like, yeah, you just got to be active and you got to eat healthy. That's the conclusion we'd have. It wouldn't be, you know, don't worry about those things. So I don't know. I think generally people just, they're going to think what they think and believe what they believe. And it's going to take time for that seed to be planted and to grow and to help change. I don't think people just watch a Netflix thing and end up changing everything they do because they saw something. Like, it's going to take a lot of time for that to happen. But I don't know. I think that stuff is good. I think it's true. I'm always trying to figure out, like, okay, what is the stuff that really doesn't matter versus the stuff that does, and how do I sift that stuff out? But I don't know. I didn't take that much away from it, to be honest.
I didn't take that much away from the series. It's more like that's something that I'm trying to be more aware of in general. And then we talked about it with my mom. We talked about it like after the episode was done. It's like kind of pondering that a little bit more, that it seemed like there was a little bit of a theme. And I think when we were used to our life, that when we go back and we're around different people and family members, it's like they live differently than we do. So it's then it like, every time it makes me question, okay, so what do I like what we're doing? What do I not like what we're doing? How could we, you know, adopt that? Or, oh, that's kind of cool that they do that. What's our version of that? But I think I'm just kind of, the gears are continuing to turn in that theme of, no, what do I still want to be my high strung version with? And what is also just like, oh, that's so, I like that. Like, we went to my younger cousin's cross country meet, and like their life is so, the kids and the sports, like she's doing something all the time. Her brother is like on a higher level hockey team, so he's traveling out of state most weekends, and they're at practices, you know, 5 times a week. They are like all in on the kids, and like their jobs are very regular jobs. It's like they're not doing anything crazy and flashy. It's just about getting the kids to where they're going and having them have the like best experience doing that. It's like, oh, that also looks awesome too.
Yeah. I think that's what, you know, I've taken more away from just being back there and being around our families than that thing. You know, I think especially this last time we were back, just seeing how self-sufficient our families are, like that is always attractive to me. Of, oh, I want to be that like I want to do stuff myself. I don't know.
I think at our age, it's, I don't say tricky, but like we're in that in-between phase of setting up what we want, the future, what is the foundation that we're creating for the future, but then also still trying to have that loose, like just enjoy it type of thing that you talked about. One of the family members is like, man, like they just seem like they are like, whatever. Like, everything is kind of just like, yeah, I'm not going to care about a lot of stuff. Like, I'm just here to hang out and do whatever. And, like, I'm not trying to put on a face anymore. And it seems like that individual is, like, getting happier and happier as time goes on. Because they're just like, I could care about that, but nah.
Well, and I think
I'm just going to enjoy my family.
I mean, if you've listened to this for long enough, you can tell that we think things are very important. Pretty much everything is very important. And I think as we continue to get older and older, we are dialing that back more and more and just trying to figure out like how to be happier and calmer and less stressed out and all that kind of stuff. And I think that's just something that comes with age. You start to realize what you do have control over, what you don't have control over, and what is worth spending so much time on and what really is important versus what isn't important. And I think it's a very young person thing to be like, I have to do this, or this is important. I got to do this. Why isn't everybody else doing this? This is why this is the way it is, and blah, blah, blah. And you think everything is such this big deal. And I think the older that we get, the more we have these conversations of just, okay, well, the exciting, crazy, fun lifestyle is attractive to the younger crowd. But then as you get older, you want more stability. You want more calm. You don't want things to be so all over the place and crazy and whatever. That I think, like you said, we're kind of in this phase and slowly transitioning to, okay, what do we actually want life to be, and how are we setting that up? And analyzing a lot of those things that we thought were really important and big deals and everybody should be paying attention to okay, but that's not fun, and we're not happy with that, or that's not it's like you just want life to be kind of chill and not so ridiculously crazy all the time. And I think some people just embody that much easier than others, and some people don't, and some people do just keep that kind of crazy intensity for forever. And honestly, I think like marriage and kids probably has a ginormous pull or deal with that, of just like you get outside of yourself a little bit and you're like, oh, I was only thinking about what I wanted all the time and how much I want that and how important it is. And then especially when you find somebody like with us where we have the same thought processes and ideas, and you're kind of combining that, and now it's like we're both really doing that.
Double powered.
Yeah. To where then I think it's just you continue to grow up, you continue to become just a little bit more mature, and you just start to chill a little. You're like, okay, this is not that big of a deal. This is not as important. How do I get to what I want? It's like, what kind of life do you want that promotes all of that stuff that's in that Netflix thing of going to the blue zones and everybody's happy and everybody's living a really long time. They're living into their hundreds and they're happy and they're moving around really well and doing all that kind of stuff. And it's like, oh, now that is becoming more of an importance rather than how do we make a bunch of money? How do we live in the place we want to? How do we have the career that we want to? How do we, do this and do that? Just doing everything. How do we get this? How do we get that? It starts to become less of that and more about just like, what do I want to do and what do I not want to do and what do I want to have and not want to have and how do I build that sort of life? You start to put your eye more on the focus of enjoyment and living a fun life rather than kind of like the accolades of life. It's like, I don't care so much about accolades anymore. That's all I cared about is I want this, I want this, I want this. And now it's like, oh, that I would rather have none of those accolades and just be super happy with what I'm doing or just in general super happy. So how do I achieve that rather than the career and the house and the this and that and the dollar amount in my bank account? And it's like those things can still be important. Obviously, you don't want to be broke.
Because to a certain degree, you do need to have that in order for your life to be a specific thing, your kids to be able to have opportunities. Like you can't just not care about that, but maybe how you get there doesn't matter as much.